Welcome to the Absolute Dogs Sexier Than Squirrel podcast. I'm Lauren Langman. I'm one of the world's leading dog trainers, and it's my mission to help owners become their dog's top priority. In each episode, you'll discover how to gain trust and communicate with your dog like never before, creating unbreakable bonds that make you the most exciting part of their world. Hello and welcome to the Sexier Than Squirrel podcast, the podcast that gives you real life dog training results. And today we are talking Huskies. They're a breed I absolutely adore. I think they are the most beautiful thing on the planet. I particularly love blue eyes, but you know what? Some of them do not have blue eyes and they are still particularly gorgeous. I'm joined by two wonderful Husky owners, both Loveday and Shelly. And I know we're going to get two possibly very different insights into Huskies and Husky ownership, or maybe being owned by a Husky. Shelly, tell me a little bit about your Huskies. Welcome here. And most of all, inspire people that are listening and talking Husky ownership.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on the podcast. So right now I've got two Siberian Huskies, Sela, who is 8.5 years old, and Suka, who is 5.5 years old. Sela was initially started on clicker training because that's where I started my training with. Until he was about 2, I guess, and then I converted over to games-based training. And Suka has been completely trained on games. And so they're very active. I do a lot of fitness activities. We canicross, we ski jor, we scooter. We also sled in the winter. And I don't believe in limiting my dog's capabilities. And so we've done obedience. We've competed in obedience and scent work and tracking. They've got their championships, grand championships in trick dog, stunt dog, canine fitness. So I'm pretty much game. We do weight pulling as well. So I pretty much don't limit what they're able to do, because I think a lot of people think this is a Husky, it only does this. And you can't train a Husky. I probably have heard that even from breeders. You can't train a Husky. You can never have your Husky off lead. All of my Huskies have been off lead when we hike. And I think one of the things I would say to new owners or people considering getting one is start training right away. Start playing the games right away. Because so many people contact me and they're 6 months in, and the first 4 months they've taught their dog a lot of bad habits because they're so cute. So, the first thing they do, they put a leash on them and then they let them run and see everybody and see every dog. And then at 4.5 months old, when they get some strength and ability to pull, they're wondering why their dogs are pulling, and they don't walk nicely. They don't come when they're called. So I think that's probably my biggest thing would be, as soon as you get your dog, I let them settle for a week or two, and then I start. So there's no wasted time.
I think that's mega, Shelly, because I have an owner coming here tomorrow, actually. She's got a very, very birdy dog, and not a Husky, a gun dog. And this dog is really birdy, but for the first 9 months of its life, it's been allowed to run around the woods. And so now she's struggling to get the dog to disengage from the birds and come back, and she wants a recall. And the dog's already rehearsed it for 9 months. 9 months. I also saw a really great video of a trainer yesterday, a trainer who I really respect, actually. I really like, really great person. And her little spaniel's on a lead and the other dogs are all up ahead, and this spaniel's really pulling and screaming and trying to get with the other dogs and really like, and I think what sometimes happens is we think we've got one dog under control, but actually they are completely, whilst you might have them on a lead and you've got them like captured, you have not got one part of their brain. Like their brain is all out there. Yeah. And so I love what you say there. Now, Loveday, I know you've had a different experience potentially with Huskies, but I did hear something that Shelly said that I thought was very, very tangible. You've got a dream with your Huskies to do some agility at some point, right? And you want to do some agility.
Yes, definitely. I mean, Shelly, of all the things you've done with your dogs. So yes, but I completely agree. I think because Huskies are so intelligent, they can literally turn their paw to whatever you want them to turn their paw. And Shelly, I'd definitely love to have a conversation with you about sledding, because I would love to do that with mine too, because I think they would love it. And yes, I have also been told that dogs are untrainable, or that you've got to be really harsh to them, or that they will get dominant and aggressive if you don't put them in their place and you don't teach them that you're alpha. So when I got my first Husky, my first ever dog, that was what I had read on the internet. And definitely if you read about Huskies on the internet, you will never get one, because everything is so negative about them as a breed, I think. And I think that's such a shame.
I also think, just listening to you, Loveday and Shelley, I also think both of you, you're very good advocates for the breed. But both of you have really worked hard on getting your dogs on board. And I know that, Shelley, that's something you do. So I don't know if you could tell our listeners about how you get them on board. And I know, Loveday, we could talk as well on this. How have you got them on board? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things initially. And like you said, you might wait a couple of weeks to let them settle in. I might not even wait them that long. I'd be like, the sooner you can start playing games and the sooner you can start onboarding them to your way of like training. How do you get your Huskies on board?
So I just want to add one thing that I forgot to say. Another thing I commonly hear that drives me crazy are Huskies are stubborn.
Oh, yeah.
Because I hate the word stubborn. And I think a big part of having Huskies, and any dog for that many, any working breed for sure, is getting people to change the way that they think and how they refer to their dogs. Because I think of them as they're perseverant. When I was a police officer and I was training as a police officer, my coach officer was writing up a review on me. And I said to him, I bet you're going to write that I'm stubborn, because I had just worked on a certain case and I really stuck with it like a dog with a bone. And I solved the case. And he said, no, he said, never think of yourself as stubborn. Think of yourself as perseverant. And that's really stuck with me. And I really see that in my dogs. I never see them as stubborn. They're perseverant. They're independent thinkers, which I love. They're active, which I love. So I think it's finding that match with your personality as well. Makes it easier or harder. If you're not an active person and you get a Husky, you're going to become active.
I love what you say there. And I also think, just quickly touching base with both of you, because the Husky does have that look more wolfy. So they are more wolfy looking. They're more, they've just got that great look. I mean, they are beautiful. They are one of the breeds that you just, for me, they're like jaw dropping. Like, I just think they're gorgeous, and they really are gorgeous. However, I think people are quicker to go to pack mentality with them. I think quicker to go to a sort of a dominance theory with them. I think people are quicker to judge them along that sort of, and the people that own them as well potentially can go down that route quickly. So as in, they can fall down that route because that trap is there and ready for them. It's like the path is laid out. Here's the route you go on, dominant alpha sort of space, isn't it? Like, so I just wanted to touch base on that as well. I think you own breeds, both of you, that people are quick to take on that route.
Yeah. To answer your first question, though, how I got them on board, Suka was easy because I started with him right away. So he was very food motivated as a puppy. So really easy to get him engaged. Sela was more difficult. Sela's a redhead, and his breeder would always say he's a redhead, and that was her reason for why he is the way he is. I can't tell, Loveday, if your hair is red or not, but no offense if it is.
No, it's fine. There are red highlights in there that are natural. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that makes me forthright, though, not
Forthright.
Forthright, yes.
There you go. But Sela was really difficult because he was not motivated by toys. He was not a food motivated dog. And so finding things to get him to engage with me took me a while, probably took me about a month. And what I found out with him was it was how I animated food. It wasn't about animating it. It was very specific. So when I played airplane game, this is where I figured this out. When I did the airplane game, I had to really move it around and fast and slow and up and down. And I had to put sound effects with it. But it engaged them. And once I figured out that piece of it, it became more of me looking at what am I doing here and what does he need, because he's so different from Suka. Suka wouldn't care. Suka, I don't have to do anything with the food, right? He'll react for it. So it took me a while to get Sela engaged. And plus I would have to use higher value with Sela. Suka, I could just use kibble. Once Sela got into it though, I just use like kibble for the most part. I do take higher value stuff. Like if I'm off leashing and I know I want to practice recalls, I take higher value stuff with me. Toy motivated, Suka's more toy motivated. I get about a minute of play out of Sela. And I kind of know, because he'll just leave. He'll just walk away. In the middle of play, he'll just drop the toy and leave. So I have to be really, really cognizant of the fact that I don't want to play too long with him. So that's probably my biggest challenge was with Sela, but he does both now. He's food and toy motivated.
Day, how about you? How have you managed to get some of yours on board?
Yeah, well, I'm impressed, Shelley. You had 50% of your dogs were food motivated and play motivated, because none of mine were. I mean, I had 3 of them from small pups, and 1 was a rescue, and none of them were food oriented. I mean, I remember when I got the rescue, he didn't know what anything other than kibble was. I gave him a bone, and he looked at it and went, "What am I meant to do with that?" So that was a very long journey with him. But all of them, it's something that we've had to grow. We ditched the bowl. We ditched the bowl in the right way. Yeah, I mean, ditching the bowl makes such a difference. It really does. And exactly as you say, Shelley, movement all the time, all the way, is the way that you keep them engaged and keep their attention. So yeah, I mean, the way I got my dogs to be foodie was I set myself the challenge of 3 weeks of them taking all their food from my hand. So, you know, like, I would move my hand around, and I would play with it. I would play games with it. They'd work for their food. But after a week and a half, I had foodie dogs. It worked, and it worked so fast. And I was amazed at the shift that it made.
Loveday, I have to say, Shelley, when I first met her, I was like, dear Lord, what on earth is this? And I'm going to say that in a really straight way, because she turned up in the car park. There's dogs hanging out of the car, literally. And they're just like, oh, like literally any opportunity. And I'm like, what has actually happened here? And she's come for a holiday. And I'm like, what's happened here? Like, who is this crazy lady with 4 Huskies hanging out of the vehicle? I love you to bits, Loveday. You're one of the best like people that we train, in the sense that you're so open, you're so up for it. But the biggest thing is you've had a mega transformation. You had a mega transformation, because those 4 dogs, I would say, Shelley, are probably, I can understand why people would say stubborn. And I understand that that's not what we want to call them, but they are so independent thinking that you could have no thinking in your direction. So Shelley, tell me any of the struggles you've had with yours.
Suka. So Suka's main struggle is fear of strangers, and he's been that way since probably around 8 months old. He was fine as a puppy, and then around that 8 months, he started displaying fear of strangers. And I think part of that was due to, I at the time was showing him in confirmation, getting him ready for confirmation, and the way that the people in that are, there's a different mindset in how you handle dogs, and I think that hurt him rather than helped him. And so his biggest struggle is fear of strangers. He's much better now, but he still doesn't like people coming up to touch him. I can hand his leash to somebody and he'll walk with them and no problem. So he's very, very specific. Sela, I guess with Sela, it would be, he still has that independent, he'll think about it. You know, like when he's gone, and I remember when he was younger and he was running free on the trail, and I called him and he stopped and he turned and looked at me. And for that split second, I thought, he's not going to come back. But then he did. So Sela is more of that. I'm just that Suka, 99.9% sure he's coming back. Sela, 90% sure he's coming back when I ask him on the first call. And I'm very big on, I set my standards for my dogs really, really high, and you probably do as well, both of you, because they're working breeds. And I have, you know, I want my dogs, I want to know that 99.9% of the time they're going to do what I ask them to do the first time. I don't like repeating cues. And I think that's probably something too I would recommend with people that are getting puppies, is get a really good positive trainer that knows about not putting those cues in too early. Because I think that's something that people do too often. They want to get a recall cue right away. They want to have a loose leash walk cue right away without building up the behavior and getting that behavior the way you want it first. The cue is easy. So I think that's a big part of it too, is not rushing it.
I was training with a trainer last night, actually, with Eliza. Eliza has online lessons. I'm definitely not her trainer. I am not going to be her trainer. Training your daughter is not a thing. And so in agility I can, but he'll work to music, I don't. Anyway, the trainer was giving Eliza words, and Eliza was like really deciding. She was like really thinking hard on the cue. And I said to Eliza, really, it's not the cue, and it's mostly the timing of the cue and the consistency of the cue. The cue itself doesn't really matter. You can call it apples, bananas, or pears, pink, blue, yellow. I mean, sure that tone can help and pitch can help, but you can change the tone and pitch on most words. The big thing I really think is important is what you said there, is actually you don't need to put the cue in too soon. And I think too many trainers do that. But at the same time, I do think Huskies have some typical problems, and I do think they've got, like, for example, I was giving you before we were on the podcast, I was giving the example of my youngster running off and chasing a bird this morning, and she literally was bird brained. And when I say that, I mean bird brained. Like, it's like the lights are on and nobody's home. So can you both give me an example where you've had that with your Huskies in some scenario? And I would say my spaniels, typically it would be in hunt territory, and it would be when they have seen something they think they're hunting. And I've seen it a few times on her. I've seen it where she's literally middle of hunting, middle of sort of working through like a tennis ball, and then something's changed in it, like the ball's been hidden or the ball's been moved away or something's happened, and you can see her lose her whole head. But I actually think with an inexperienced handler, I do believe you could really mess up there. And I really believe you could lose her, because she would be trying hard to look for that ball or that thing or that bird. But if you didn't pick her up quickly enough or stop it quickly enough, I think it could turn into a behavior you really don't like. Shelly and Loveday, have you got any examples? I'll come to Shelly first, but have you got any examples of that with a Husky? Like I said, I can tell you mine with my dogs. What would yours be?
I guess the only thing they really that I would say they struggle with would be, like, they can stop and watch deer. And if we're canny crossing, if we're doing a running event, they just on by. That's not a problem because we've done it so often. But if we're walking, for example, or they see a deer, as long as the deer are still or moving slowly, totally fine. That hopping, like if you get 4 young deer hopping around, that arousal level goes up really, really fast. And if you don't have their attention before that happens, it can be difficult. Usually though, if I know that there's deer in the area, if I've got them, I'll have them on a line or something. And then it's just a matter of, if I know, like if I see the first deer come, I kind of back off and give myself some distance just to make sure their arousal is going to be kept in check. I think that's probably the base. Oh, and bear. For what we don't see bear very often, but when we do, those are like 1000%.
It's how you just dropped it in there. Oh, and bears.
Oh,
Yes.
well, I forgot about it, but we because we're on the trails so much, there's bear. There's moose.
I love that. There's just bear around. And I really, and I want to say here, because I know, Loveday, your experience here will be different. I'm training an owner right now who, her dog, she's honestly away with the fairies, and the dog has been allowed way too much rehearsal of the wrong thing, number one. Or number two, is hardwired to be more that way. And I think there's probably an element of both in some dogs. Some dogs are hardwired, like Tokyo is hardwired. His instincts on sheep are really good, like really good. Have I let him rehearse it? Have I let him go practice it? Have I let him be a sheepdog? No. And he had one sheepdog lesson as a youngster, and I was like, I really shouldn't do this with you, because I think that the more I do it, the more this light will flick on and the more you will want to do it. And I feel like it's almost unfair to turn the light on too much with a dog like that, because that's not his job. He's never going to be a sheepdog. Loveday, I know you've got experience that, to be honest, listening to Shelly there, Shelly's dog sniffing out deer, looking at deer or sniffing out deer, they've got relative control. I know that yours, even in the presence of the scent, might struggle, right?
I had one incident where we were walking along the beach. So you think beach pretty safe. We're walking along the beach path, but then there was a field, and he was a really young dog. He was only probably about 7 months old. He was off lead. I was confident of his recall. And then he just took off across the field. And then I stood there and watched him as he flushed out the deer. And then I watched him crossing 2 fields, chasing these deer. Thank goodness he never caught the deer. And there were 2 dog walkers standing there tutting at my dog off. And then another dog owner came up and said, "What do you do?" I said, "There's nothing I can do. There's no possible way I can catch up with him. That I can't even get into that field. All I've got to do is wait for him to come back." And once he'd finished chasing the deer, he came back, and with a very scared deer, doubtless, but no real harm done. But yeah, mine do not have that impulse control. They see a deer, they see anything like that, and they are after it. And there's another example of a challenge that I've had with Huskies. The postman left the gate open, and one of mine escaped, and I followed him, and I called him, and he turned around, looked me straight in the eyes, and went, "No," and turned around and kept running. And I was like, "You little."
And I did
so
wonder when you said that.
Stroke, persistent stroke,
Tenacious,
independent-minded,
persistent.
yeah. Yeah.
And I like all of that. I did think for a split second when you said, and I followed him, I thought you meant the postman. I thought you followed the postman. The
Oh, I
postman
had some
turned
choice
around.
words for the postman as well, believe me.
He looked him in square in the eye, and I was like, oh my goodness, she's tenacious.
Yeah.
And but I do believe that Loveday coming in at it with, especially because you've come in and you've got 4 dogs, and they've learnt bits off each other as well. But I've never seen, sometimes I would say, when I say I've never seen hunt instincts so strong, they've got very strong hunt instincts, but I would guess they would be the same as that little spaniel that I'm telling you about, the birds, the one that's coming to us actually for a lesson tomorrow. So she's got a lesson tomorrow. And one of the biggest things we're going to say to this owner, I don't know if you guys can guess it, one of the biggest things is we need to stop that rehearsal. And the struggle is, all of the pictures that I'm seeing on social media of this dog are her on the moorland walking and rehearsing all of the things we're going to tell them that she needs to stop. And that is a huge thing. Shelley, what do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, it's funny because people think they have to run their dog. They have Huskies. They need lots of exercise, and it's a double-edged sword, because I weight pull, I run my dogs. The more fit they are, the more you got to do with them. So I would caution them about that. And the other thing that I was going to say was in regards to the deer, just a little story, because there was a deer with 4 little ones, which is very unusual. And we would stop and we were watching them walk by. The little deers were hopping around. A dog in the adjacent house, they've got a little tiny, like a Shih Tzu kind of dog, got loose on them. It went chasing all the deer. Mine were standing there watching. He had to get on his machine, his forerunner, and go catch his dog. Anyway,
That's so funny.
I just
That's
found that
so
funny.
I do believe that people don't get that what they rehearse, they become. So the more you allow, of course, if you're going to let your husky go chasing deer, of course that's sport, right? Like that's exactly sport and hunt and game. Same as if I let my border collie chase sheep, right? Or my spaniel chase birds. Like they are going to become that. And even dogs who are in working capacities, they're not allowed free rein to just go off and hunt. Like they're not allowed free rein to go off and play with sheep or work go and catch birds or retrieve birds, or you don't let them just to go off and do it.
That's why I really like the games-based training, because Huskies have that full predatory chain sequence, right? So they want to kill and eat things. They want to stalk, they want to chase, they want to do all of it. And so I really use the games-based training to really address all of those aspects. Like we do flirt pull or
whip it. Yeah.
Whip it. Yeah. That's probably been had the biggest impact on the dogs and self-control.
Nice.
Huge.
Really nice.
And then I really like doing Russian doll cardboard, the box inside the box, or egg cartons, and because the dogs love ripping the boxes. I don't care, rip the box. And people say, oh no, because then they'll rip every box. And it's like, no, I can leave a box sitting out in the house. They don't rip it. And I think it's getting that understanding that you need to satisfy your dog's instinctual needs, especially with this breed, because they want to do the whole thing. So you've got to figure out a way to let them rip something apart, eat what's inside it, because it satisfies that wanting to kill something and dissect it and consume it. They can do it safely in your backyard.
They do take the whole chain. So they do take the whole chain, right from all the way through, from eye stalk all the way through to grab, bite, kill, dissect. And I think that's a really important thing to understand, is that a dog that has that instinct, like your Labrador doesn't have that instinct. Like that is not in your Labrador. And I'm not saying that some Labradors don't do that. What I'm saying is it's not correct in a Labrador. Whereas in a Husky, it's actually bred for it, right?
And here, like I said, because we've got bear, they can bring a bear back to you. If they go chasing a bear and then that bear turns it around, you can end up like it's a real safety issue. And the deer here, if they chase a deer with your dog could get killed. So there's a lot of risk that I think people need to be a little smart. Like, your Husky doesn't have to run loose all the time. And the other thing I'll say too is I've left my dogs. I've gone on vacations for up to 2 weeks, and my sister will take care of my dogs while I'm away. She doesn't play games. She doesn't have dogs. She'll come feed them in the morning, like scatter feed them, and then let them out for the business, put them back in. And they're not crated in the house. They're just left alone. I know people think that's crazy, but that's just, I brought them up that way, that they can be loose in my house. Then she come home at lunch, let them out. They can go for like 2 weeks not having a walk, not having played games, just having time in the backyard. And it's just that time, I see it as a big decompression period for them.
I
So
love
I think
that, Shelley. I love that,
I
because
was just gonna say, I think that's another fallacy, that you've got a husky, you've got to run them and get them tired out. And I'm going, actually running them can be the worst thing you do.
I love what you're saying, because I do exactly the same. When I go on holiday, I'm like, great decompression time. When I come home, they're going to be fresh and ready to go again. So I'm ready to train them, because I'm possibly a little bit like you. I like to train quite a lot. So because I like to train quite a lot, I like to do quite a lot, I'm quite active with my dog. Sometimes some decompression time is good, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're active with them, I think that's fantastic. What do you think, Loveday?
I think that's such an amazing point, Shelley, that you've made, because when I first got my first husky, I was told in no uncertain terms that I needed to be walking my dog 4 times a day. And I was like, I don't have time to walk 4 times a day. I won't get anything else done. I do actually have to work. And so I was like, it's going to have to be twice a day, and that's going to have to be enough. And then when I had the situation where my dogs just didn't have the calm, and they weren't capable of settling, and like you, my dogs are loose, they choose to be on the boundaries, they sleep on the floor. You know, we now have a very calm household, but the best thing I ever did was to go down to 1 walk a day, because my mornings were insane, because they were expecting, from the instant I woke up, they were expecting, right, we're going to be going for a run. And the best thing I ever did was to cut out that morning walk. And now I can take them for a morning walk sometimes if that fits in with my schedule. I have ditched the routine, but that's okay. They're still calm, and that's okay. And I mean, today it is absolutely pouring it down with rain. I mean, it is serious rain. We went for a massive hike on the moors yesterday. Today we are going to be playing games in the house. We are not going out in that. I can't cope with that. The dogs don't care. I care. But for many people, that is so shocking. And I see so much online about how many hours exercise. And when I first started, I was like, yes, absolute minimum of 2 hours a day. And now I'm like, actually, no. Exercising their minds is as important as exercising their bodies, and they can get exercise. Especially, I've got multi dogs. I do let them run in my garden, and they do exercise and play with each other. And that's okay, and that, in fact, that's better for them. And as you say, if we skip a day and we don't exercise, well, in terms of going for a walk, actually that's good for them, and that's what they need. And we don't need to just piling on more and more and more and building up their fitness, because as you say, the fitter your dog, the more active they are, the more energetic they are. And that's not that you never exercise your dog ever, but there's a balance there.
It's reframing exercise, isn't it? It's reframing exercise for, you saw me doing what I call confidence circuits, which is effectively, I really like to teach them cavaletti, splitting their back legs ready for running contact training for agility. I like to teach them lots of different surfaces, balance paths really with more purpose. So I really like doing that with my dogs. And I know, Shelley, you do something similar. And then Loveday, I know that you're building up to doing some agility, but a lot of it's mental work. I think that there's so much you can do mentally. Go on, Shelley, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, to me, the mental part is probably more important.
More, for sure.
Because they are smart and they're extremely creative. Like so many Huskies, you hear stories of them climbing fences, and they're escape artists and all this. They're very creative. And that's kind of why I'm glad you mentioned ditch the routine, because I know so many people, they're very set and regimented. And I honestly think with Huskies, ditching the routine is huge.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you never know, it's like, oh, good, what are we doing today? Are we going out? Because they're very like most dogs, they all predict everything, right? So I think that's a big part of it, is it's more exciting for the dog that way, in terms of, oh, what are we doing today? Oh, we're doing this today. Oh, good. You don't even go for a walk. You don't leave the yard, right? So I really like that you said that piece. And regarding agility, I've got a small set of agility, like the tunnel and jumps and stuff. So there is hope for agility.
Yes.
My dogs do it.
Good,
yeah.
Shelley. If you need a hand, I'm ready. I'm ready. I
don't compete in it. I just do it for fun and fitness.
Cool.
And like I say, I don't like limiting. So I've had dogs I've had like basset hounds. You know, we put the pole on the ground. He's not jumping, but he loves running through the tunnel. I think it's more for that mental stimulation than the physical aspect of it for a lot of dogs.
And variety. Variety's mega, isn't it? Like varieties are really, I think it's important for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys, Huskies, are they for everyone? Absolutely not. You know what? I think you need to have the right mindset for a Husky, but I'd say the same with Spaniels. I'd say the same with my Border Collies. I would absolutely say the same with a Jack Russell Terrier. So for me, I think you do need the right mindset. I think you do need the right framework. And I definitely think you need to be the right owner for your dog. But at the same time, isn't that every dog? Are Huskies trainable? Loveday, are Huskies trainable?
Absolutely, 100% trainable. Yes.
Shelly, are Huskies a brilliant breed in your life?
Oh, yes. I wouldn't have any other breed. I used to, but I wouldn't anymore. I figure even when I'm old and gray, they can pull me in my wheelchair or whatever I'm in.
I love it. I absolutely love it. You're going to go mush and off they go. You know what? Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. Huskies, a beautiful, brilliant breed, and a breed that so many people do not understand. So share this podcast far and wide. Thank you so much, both of you, for giving up your time to be here with me and all of our listeners worldwide to share. Hopefully this one does get worldwide, and hopefully so many of you take this lesson along to your classes, your students, your friends, your family, anyone who you know may own a Husky or maybe owns a Husky right now or might in the future. That was this episode of the Sexier Than Squirrel podcast. We will see you next time.